The day that I have been waiting for quite some time is finally here. I have finished the first ever comic book that I wrote and illustrated myself. Well, in my professional career, I should say, because I recently found some old comics that I made when I was younger, and they're terrible. So, I should say this is the first self-written and self-illustrated comic that is good, because in recent years I have done my comic with Camille Curtis. It's called Band of Destinies. There are 10 issues out now. If you haven't heard of that, be sure to check it out. That is a comic that I write the scripts for and do the storyboarding as well as the coloring, but she does all the sketching and the art itself. So tackling both the writing and the art for me in a comic that I wanted to actually be good and presentable to the world was a challenge, because I am not an artist in terms of like drawing. I have done some drawing, but I do not consider myself to be very good at it. So to make it look good enough for me to post it online and send it to people and say, here, I want you to read this, it took a lot of time. If you remember my KeelanCon video, I did last year where I announced some stuff I was going to do in the later half of 2018, I said I had 3 comics that I was planning on doing last year. That was not accurate, because I only finished 1 comic, and I just now finished it in late January of the following year. So it actually took me a few months to do just this one. So I apologize to anyone who saw that video and was expecting more comics, because I realized that to make these actually look good and to the quality that I think that readers deserve, it takes a lot of time. So without further ado, here it is, Viking Lantern. This is just a copy that I printed this morning on my home printer, so probably not the best of quality, but it is awesome and readable, and I'm very, very happy to have this in my hands right now. The actual file itself, the digital pages, are available to read on my website, keelan.com. So go there right now. It's the most recent post, and you can see the full PDF. It's 13 pages, counting the cover. 13 pages is a lot. Each page I made like 3,000 by 4,000 pixels. So I did a lot of zooming in and a lot of really detailed coloring. This was all done on my iPad in the application Procreate, by the way. And anyways, I thought I would take a little bit of time in this video to discuss the story and my inspiration, and just share a little bit of the behind the scenes of this comic book. So, as everyone knows, Green Lantern is my favorite aspect of DC Comics and my favorite realm of fiction ever. And I do hope to one day actually be writing the real Green Lantern comics for DC. So writing a Lantern title as my own fan comic was a great place to start. So I decided to come up with something unique that I don't believe has been done before, and that is making a Lantern out of a Viking, because Vikings are awesome and so are lanterns. So basically the premise of this is just like any old Green Lantern story. There's a guy, ordinary dude, a Green Lantern ring comes, finds him and says, hey, take the ring, accept this great responsibility, and you'll become a member of the Green Lantern Corps. So that happens to this guy, Halvor Kaldarson. Halvor, the name Halvor, is actually a common Norwegian name, but I chose it because it has Hal in it, so it's just a very slight nod to Hal Jordan, of course, the most famous and main Green Lantern, and Kaldarson because he's the son of Kaldur. That's his dad's name. His dad is a character who appears briefly. I spend the first few pages establishing he lives in a village on the sea, West Adgar, Norway. It's a real village, and I show a lot of the Vikings, a lot of the just like everyday people that he encounters, his dad, his friends, fellow warriors. And so designing their outfits was kind of fun, because I wasn't really going for historically accurate costumes, because for starters he has horns on his helmet. Vikings did not actually have horns on their helmet. despite popular belief. So I got to get a little creative with the costumes while still paying respects to the ancient Norse Vikings, because I myself come from a family of Norwegian origins. Not that I'm all that ethnic, I'm only 25% Norwegian. My dad's 50 and his mom is 100% Norwegian, so her parents actually came here from Norway, if I remember correctly. So I've always felt a personal connection to Norway, which is why I wanted to do a Viking instead of a pirate or a gladiator or some other historical occupation that is cool. So anyways, this Viking by the name of Halvor receives the ring, and he has to go through a bit of initiation, a bit of training, and he has to learn how to use the ring, which is always fun in any Green Lantern comic whenever the lantern receives the ring and doesn't know what to do at first, and they're like, wait, I can fly, I can just make stuff appear. That's awesome. But what's interesting in this particular case is that he has to keep the ring hush hush, because he's not supposed to have it, actually, and you'll find out exactly why once you read it. But if you are a fan of the Green Lantern lore and you know a little bit about the characters, you know that Hal Jordan is hypothetically the first human Green Lantern ever. So having a human Green Lantern exist centuries before him is a little bit tricky, but I made it work, so just check it out. The page that I'm most proud of, that I will show off very briefly, is one in which he fights a pack of wolves. So here we have him fighting some wolves, and this is when he starts to really learn his ring's capabilities, and he's like, whoa, all the weapons that I use as a Viking, I can just make them. I don't even have to carry them now. I can just make them and fight off wolves or any threats of that sort. The reason actually that I included wolves was because I had just watched the movie The Grey with Liam Neeson, and the way that they used wolves as the antagonists of the movie, I found to be very captivating, and I found the wolves to be very scary the way that they did it. And granted, I may not have captured that horrifying nature that surrounded the wolves in the movie, but it inspired me to include them as a minor threat in my book. I don't know what animal I would have used or what would have happened exactly if I hadn't watched that movie, but just thank Liam Neeson for this page. And I think it turned out pretty good, even though it took forever to draw wolves, because I cannot draw animals. And then we're introduced to a guardian of the universe, which is awesome. I won't tell too much about the guardian or his intentions or which guardian it is, but I will end this video with one last tidbit, and that is sharing the villain who appears in the final few pages. His name is Bard the Bombastic. That name takes inspiration from some of the goofy, evil Viking nicknames from How to Train Your Dragon, because I know that in the animated series there's some like Ivan the Terrible and a few others that are just intimidating epithets for Vikings. And so I wanted to do one that was kind of funny, but also a serious villain. So his name is Bard the Bombastic. He's the leader of these guys called the Fire Clan that I created. I thought that it would be cool to do fire because that's an interesting texture that's difficult to draw, but I wanted to include it. And also with fire, you get to use like a yellowish color palette for their costume design, and the yellow is meant to be somewhat resemblant of the Sinestro Corps, the Yellow Lanterns, the enemies, the mirror evil to the Green Lanterns. Using yellows was supposed to be just a little nod to the main villains in the modern day Green Lantern comics. So I guess just to wrap up now, I know I said I was going to wrap up earlier, sorry about that, but I am just very happy to share this comic with you guys. So just to give you a very quick insight into the process, I storyboarded it. I actually did not write out the dialogue in full before I started drawing because I knew what I wanted to happen in the story, and so I figured I could kind of just make up the dialogue as I went along, which I know is a little unprofessional. If I were to be writing a comic for DC, I would write out every word that they say beforehand. I would have it totally mapped out, but since this was just a more casual project of my own. I just kind of went with the flow, and as I did so, I drew first. I sketched out all the pages, then I went back in Procreate and colored them all, and then I would send them to my laptop so I could use Photoshop to organize the panels and then do the lettering, the text, and use certain effects for certain words, and even little sound effects, because any way to make audio sensations in the reader's mind is always a powerful thing to do with comic books or any literature. And so I just explored a bunch of different textures with the fire, like I mentioned, the smoke, the water, the hair of all the Vikings, some of the constructs, of course, the sky, the moon, the sun. It was very, very fun and a very new experience for me to do all of this, and I know there are people way more talented than me at this sort of thing who can draw way better than I can, but being able to say that I did this is an accomplishment for me, and I'm very happy. The next comic book I will be moving on to, I believe I'm gonna have to make it a little shorter than this one, just because I really like making these and I want to get around to a lot of characters, but if I take 3 or 4 months to make them all, then I won't get around to as many as I want in the next couple of years. So I might make some shorter ones, but I'll still do some longer ones occasionally for the sake of telling better stories. But the next one I'm going to be doing is The Question. That is different than this because it's an actual DC character, whereas this guy I just made up and all the characters in here are made up. But with The Question, I'll be using actual DC characters while still telling an original story. And this was very fun. I hope that you all read it and enjoy it. I look forward to sharing more comics with you in the future. I do have a graphic novel coming very soon, Abandoned Destinies, Volume 1, the first 12 issues. Thank you to Camille Curtis for drawing that for me. Just because I have drawn some of my own stuff now, don't think that I do not have a need for you, because I do. You are a far better artist than I am, and now that Camille has an iPad, she will probably completely outdo me with this sort of thing. But for now, I feel special. So thank you to all of you watching this and taking a few minutes out of your day to learn about something that's really important to me. That means a lot to me. And I will see you in the next video. Thank you again for coming. Brightest day and blackest nights. I hope you read my comic tonight, or today, or whatever time of day it is that you're watching this video. Peace.